Welcome to the Heart of a Viking. This channel offers elementary art lessons taught by Mrs. Minto from the Cape Henlopen School District in Delaware. I look forward to virtually creating with you. There are new lessons posted weekly. Subscribe to the channel to make sure you don't miss a single one. So go grab your art supplies and your thinking caps and let's begin. Hey 5th grade artists, the last time we were together we were working on our Audubon birds. Today we're going to pick up right where we left off, drawing some more details on the bird or his feathers and then adding some color. So go ahead and get your bird and your bird picture back out, and what I'd like for you to do is just glance back and forth between the two. You're trying to copy as many details as you possibly can from the bird and his feathers. Once you have completed that, the next step for you is to add a little bit of background. I'd like for you to show what he is standing on. Mine is standing down in the grass, but I know a lot of bird pictures have birds perched on a branch or in a tree. So add a little bit of the tree. You don't have to add a whole lot of background. We want the bird to be the focus of yours. So just a little bit in the front would be perfect. Alright, so once that's done, you're going to go ahead and switch to your coloring supplies. I'm going to be using oil pastels for my coloring supply of choice today. And when I'm using my oil pastels, I have to remember that they are similar to my crayons, but they're also different. My crayons have a wax base with the color pigment added to them, where these have an oil base, which makes them a little bit more permanent. So if I get them on my clothes or any kind of fabric, it's not going to wash off. So I have to treat them like I treat paint, roll up my sleeves, watch that my shirt isn't dragging in the pastel work as I'm working, and I definitely want to make sure that I'm not brushing across my work of art. Sometimes when I'm coloring there might be little flakes of pastels on my work of art. If I brush it away, I'm going to make smudges across my entire work of art. Just like I wouldn't brush away paint on a painting, I'm not going to brush away pastel flakes on a pastel work of art. In addition to that, pastels blend so nicely, and that is what I want you to do today whenever you're coloring your bird. When you're using oil pastels, you can use multiple colors in one area and layer them on top of each other to get the perfect shades that you need for your work of art. That's my favorite part about oil pastels, and also very reminiscent of painting as well, because you know you can mix different colors of paint together to get the perfect shade that you need. So when I'm using my oil pastels, I never want you to use just one pastel to color in a space. This is not a coloring project. This is going to be a beautiful work of art of your bird, and hopefully you're going to capture the colors and the textures by using these really cool oil pastels. If you don't have oil pastels, I encourage you to watch me do mine, so then you know what they look like and maybe even add them to your wish list if you want to. And definitely use something. You can use color pencils or crayons if you don't have oil pastels, or even paints if you would like to paint instead. So I'm curious to see what kind of supplies you have at home and what you are making, so make sure you take a photo with Art Sonia whenever you're all done as well. Okay, so let's get into some of the color adding to our bird. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm going through my pastels and trying to find some colors that I can see in the photograph of the bird. Definitely I'm going to need some brown for my bird, maybe a little bit of orange. There's some warm areas. This peach color will work really nice, a little bit of black and white as well. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is start with the lightest color I see on the entire bird, and that's white. On his little under tummy, I can tell that there are white feathers there. So I'm going to go ahead and start coloring the white on the entire bird, actually, because white also helps my colors blend together. So I'm going to go ahead and color the entire bird white to begin. Okay, and then once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and switch to whatever color I want to do next. I'm going to do a little bit of the black. I don't have a gray oil pastel. If you're lucky enough to have one and you have some gray areas on your bird, go ahead and use it, but I don't have one, so I'm going to use black and white again to make my gray. I'm going to use my white as my blending tool, so after I get a little bit of that gray in there, and then I'm also going to use my finger, because the warmth of my finger will help the oil pastel spread and smear and blend together. All right, that's a lot better. Now I'm going to go ahead and move on to some of the brown and peach areas. So on the back feathers back here, there was already some white from my original coloring of the whole bird white. I'm going to go ahead and add some of the darker brown onto here. And then I'm just going to be, again, just like when I was drawing, glancing back and forth between my work of art and the bird photograph. And I'm trying to like squint my eyes, see all the variances of the colors. This process takes a long time. I'm actually not even going to finish in this video today. This is going to filter into a third video where I finish up the coloring and then do a little bit of painting for the background. So there's no rush. You're really trying to go slow on this one and try to see the variances of the colors, even if there's only a slight difference. Maybe there's just a little bit of white on some of these feathers, or maybe there's a little bit of black or orange. Try and squint your eyes and really see those color changes, because that's just going to help make you a better artist, not only in this one work of art, but in lots of works of art that we create in the future. So take your time and go slow. Okay, take a moment, make sure that you are constantly looking back at your photograph and comparing the colors and the textures, trying to capture as many of those color changes as you possibly can. Now, also, I don't want you to get too worried about making the birds identical to the photographs of the birds, simply because you are not a machine, you're not a camera, you are not a robot who can make exact replicas of photographs. So give yourself a little bit of grace as well. Take your time and try and make it as similar as you can, but realize that you're not a machine, you're not a robot, you're not going to be able to exactly copy the changes of the bird. Just do the best you can. Try and capture as many of those characteristics of the bird as you possibly can, and the color changes. That will really help your bird look very similar to the photograph of the bird that you've been looking at this whole time. Alright, so I'm moving on to the wings now. Started with my peachy kind of color first, and I'm going to add some of those dark shades. I'll pull in some white as well. Just keep going back and forth between the colors, hoping to try and get the colors to be as similar to the photograph as I can. Keep looking back and forth between the two. Alright, so here you're going to see me pull in that tool that I mentioned earlier. Remember, this is not a toy, it is a tool, but basically all it is an opened up paper clip. I just unfolded the metal paper clip, and I'm holding the one end as I use the pointed end to scrape into the surface of my oil pastels. And it's a little hard to see here. It's really cool to see up close though. When you scrape away the pastels, you leave white lines, or basically you're revealing the white of the paper that's underneath, is really what's happening. And you'll notice that you sort of start to collect some of the pastel on the end of the paper clip, so you can just use a paper towel to clean that off as you go along. But basically all I'm doing is scraping away some of the pastel to reveal those white lines, which make a really cool feathery texture. So you can do the same thing at home, and if you don't like it, you can put another layer of pastels back on and kind of cover it up. So it's a great experiment. Try it, and then if you don't feel like it's working for you, just grab your pastel back, recolor that area, and that's what I'm doing right here. Kind of didn't like the way that texture looks, so I recolored it, and I'll try again. Okay, so that's where we're going to end for today. I'm just going to put this aside. I've been working on it for a long time. I know it seems like I've only been working on it for a few minutes, but I promise to get to this point. I probably created and colored for about 30 minutes or so. It takes a long time to make a work of art as similar to a photograph as you can. So go ahead and take a break, put this aside, and when you come back next week, we'll be adding the details to the other wing, on mine anyways, and then painting the background as well. So I will see you back here next time at the Heart of a Viking.